You have been well trained.
No.
You don't have to carry a sword to be powerful.
I won't fail you.
Oh, do not.
I'm not afraid.
There is no try.
Alright everyone, welcome again to another episode of Dice-ect the Deck. We are excited to welcome two new members to our web series team. We have father-son duo here of Demetrius and Dominic, and thank you and welcome very much, guys.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Glad to join.
Alright, so why don't we go ahead and just start with Dominic, if you'll maybe tell us where you're playing from and which deck you chose to play here.
Alright. Today I chose to go with a Boba 7th sister. And it's something that I've been playing around with a lot. I have yet to take it to a big competition, but I think the next regional that we go to, this is probably going to be the deck that I take.
Very cool. I was just playing against that tonight, and very strong deck, and just really took top 1 and 2 at North Dakota Regionals. And then Demetrius, how about you?
I went ahead and chose Sabine Ezra. It's a solid deck. It has done well recently. A lot of people are familiar with it, and we faced it a lot in our last regional, and I just thought it would be a nice, easy deck to test out the Boba sister deck.
Perfect. So for those who are listening for the first time, the idea of this series is, again, it's called Dice-ect the Deck. We're going to dive into some decks that have seen a lot of play recently. And Sabine Ezra has won Miami and second place at New Jersey. And again, Boba 7th just took first and second place at North Dakota. Our idea here is not to claim that we know the perfect way to play these decks or that this game specifically is a perfect representation. More or less, we want to say here, we want to talk about our plays and the hands that we kept and different decisions we would have made, cards we liked, and then, we want, most importantly, to hear from you, our viewers, and for you to tell us what you would have done differently or what you liked and what plays you saw. So we're going to start with Demetrius here. From your starting hand, why don't you just walk me through what you saw and what you were hoping to keep with a starting Sabine hand.
All right. You can see my opening hand, or at least my first draw there, didn't have the prettiest hand that you want. Early on, I don't want Never Tell Me the Odds or Hyperspace Jump. Maz's Vault is not bad. However, I really wanted to mulligan for a 2-drop weapon. I know that my opponent's deck has a lot of damage that can come my way, so I did want to keep one item for removal, and I went ahead and kept the hasty exit, and I discarded the other 4. Now, hasty, you may ask, why keep hasty exit? Because you need to require, you need the battlefield. Well, either way, he was most likely, if he won, going to choose my battlefield, and I have pretty high numbers on my dice, so I usually win the battlefield. So I felt comfortable keeping that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that on all accounts. Maybe I may have thought about the Maz's Vault, but again, the combo pieces of Never Tell Me the Odds and Running Interference and Hyperspace Jump, specifically those 2 3-drops, you generally don't want to see them until second turn because you need to spend your 2 resources to get a 2-drop weapon out. Okay, Dominic, why don't you tell us a little bit about your starting hand and what you chose to keep and what you think people should look for in a Boba 7th sister.
All right, yeah. I personally think the quickest, you can get out that Maul Saber, the better you're going to be, just because it's so strong, being able to use that power action to roll it back into your pool. I think I ended up keeping that, and I didn't want to keep both Close Quarters Combat and Friends in Low Places, just because I didn't want, two ways of discard, hopefully to get another removal somewhere in there. But again, that's pretty much why I chose to do what I did there. I went ahead and stuck with the Friends in Low Places just because it's, I don't have to have any dice out in the pool or anything. I can just go ahead and play that and get whatever removal or what have you out of his hand.
Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and see. Looks like Demetrius just drew back up a couple of the cards he tried to get rid of, and so a little bit of a tough start there. And Dominic actually got some great first turn plays. I love that. So just to introduce the battlefields, Demetrius plays the Outer Rim Outpost that gains a resource and draws a card, and Dominic the Resolve a die showing a modifier as if it didn't have a modifier. So here, just like we had expected, Demetrius's battlefield was chosen here. Okay, so why don't you walk us through, ideally, and you didn't draw the ideal start, but why don't you walk us through what we're hoping to see from Sabine Ezra on our first turn?
The decision with this deck, when possible, I like to go ahead and bring Ezra out early. You want to see a couple of things here. One, you hope to get that resource. The other is you can play with your opponent's resources. If I get a special or disrupt, to try to interfere with them being able to play something. But the best case scenario is you get 2+2s, and you roll in Sabine and resolve some damage.
So Negotiate is a card that I think it's such situational removal. I find that, the perfect time to play it is when they only have 2 dice in their pool, and you can, they don't get to choose some lesser dice there. So being able to remove 2 Boba Fett dice early on was a pretty great play there.
Yeah, since I really didn't have what I considered a very strong opening hand, I was kind of in defensive mode from the get-go.
Yeah, agreed. So Dominic, in the Friends in Low Places is one of my favorite cards in the entire game of Destiny. However, it's a tough card to play against Sabine Ezra. What are you hoping to see when you play Never Tell Me the Odds against a deck that plays that the 2 most important events are 3 cost?
Yeah, definitely the Never Tell Me the Odds is something that I can't pick off with that, and it's very, very powerful. But getting rid of easy picking, I find, is just extremely powerful. It's just this deck, it can always use it, always can spot that yellow character, and especially the more dice I have out, the more likely it is to be able to pick off whatever it wants to.
Perfect. So in this situation, from what I can see, Dominic didn't get a 3rd resource, and Demetrius just isn't seeing damage, so I think both players are just trying to get some damage showing on the first turn. And Sabine doesn't mind dropping weapons into her discard pile, but at the same time, you'd sure love to see some better damage here.
Yeah, definitely so. And I was gunning for that early resource, but then I rolled 4 damage, and I was like, well, I'm pretty darn happy with that.
Yeah, you can't complain. And that's really because the beauty is, and for anyone who doesn't know, Maul Saber has a power action that if he had rolled 3 damage and a resource, he could have grabbed a resource, played the Maul Saber, and then used the power action to roll in that Maul Saber this same turn, and then still have done the 3 damage plus whatever Maul Saber rolled. But didn't get the resource, but like you said, you can't be upset at 4 damage, especially when Sabine just could not pull damage this first turn.
Yeah, definitely so. And then here I went ahead and chose just to go ahead and get the Force Illusion down, because I figured, the Ezra dice are out of the pool. My resources are relatively safe. So hopefully I can get the, 3 resources and then play Darth Maul Saber right off the bat.
Hey Demetrius, are your dice as unlucky in person as they are on Tabletop Simulator?
Some days it seems.
Let's talk a second about boundless ambition. In this game, it didn't play a big key, but what have you seen boundless ambition used for in a positive way in this Boba Seventh Sister deck?
In this one in particular, it's not as important as it is in, like, for example, the OTK decks out there that run Seventh Sister, but I find it fairly useful, especially if I can get, two Maul's lightsabers out there, resolve all of my dice in the beginning, refill my hand so that I'm able to, discard, reroll, get the friend in low places out, just to, get rid of any cards they might have hang on to or stuff like that.
Yeah, so Maul Saber is unique, but even just being able to draw back up to a full hand size and have more options to discard to reroll, and when you have that Maul Saber dice out there and you really need another die showing melee damage, it's just so great to be able to have some more discard options there.
Yeah, and I think in general, just my playstyle, and sometimes it definitely gets me in trouble, is I will discard almost any card to reroll to get my damage out as quick as I can, which sometimes it comes back to bite me, discarding really important events, but it's just how I generally play.
Yeah, and if you're not playing against a mill deck, it's not likely to hurt you too much. Obviously you want to keep a hold of the right amount of removal here. So Demetrius, walk us through you have a running interference out now, and tell us what your favorite way to resolve running interference is in a Sabine deck, and just the engine that makes her go with that ability.
It is really ideal in two occasions. One is for defense and one's offense. The offensive one is using it in conjunction with Never Tell Me the Odds. It allows you to play a card, tell them they can't play a card, lock them in, and then resolve your damage. The other is a defensive one. If they've got, you can keep them from resolving, or for example, you can either keep them from resolving if you want to get dice out there to remove it. The other time is if you're holding a hyperspace jump in your hand, you want to lock them, keep them from being able to roll out, and then hyperspace jump after you do your damage.
Perfect. Great synopsis of two of the most common uses for running interference. I think a lot of people recently are a little flustered or frustrated when they sit across the table and see Sabine out there, but she's got to have her combo pieces out there to really be effective. And I mean, you also have to know the right time to play a lot of those pieces.
And you need to be able to roll damage.
You need to be able to roll damage, which was not something Demetrius was able to do for the first couple of rounds here, as we can see. Whereas Maul Saber, it's almost impossible to not roll damage.
Yeah, and I actually think, embarrassingly enough, I forgot to use its power action this turn.
You did, and I was wondering, so what had happened, you didn't have any dice remaining, and so it's happening right here, Demetrius claims, and even though you have only a 2 in 6 chance of getting a die side that can be resolved by itself, you want to at least go for that chance, right?
Yeah, definitely so. In all honesty, I just kind of brain farted on it.
yeah, it definitely happens.
Yeah, just like you get into the rhythm of playing, and sometimes you just forget one little thing that could make a big difference in the long haul.
I didn't actually pay attention, but the example I always use is, seems like people forget the shield on Shoto quite often, or even like running interference if you're not paying attention when you play your stuff, and missed opportunities. It is up to the person playing them, so it's really important to make sure that you are watching your cards, and that's really some of the key of the deck. All right, so at this point we're into round 3. And let's just kind of, Demetrius, you've got a weapon out there. You played a second chance before the end of the round. You still, unfortunately, don't have another weapon in your discard pile. So walk me through a little bit about what you're hoping to see here, what we're hoping to have happen.
I wasn't hoping to lose all my resources.
Yeah, there you go.
But I do have a 2-drop in my hand, and you're kind of faced with: do you discard and re-roll something, or you just roll out and take what you got? And unfortunately, that's basically what you have to do when somebody plays Abandon All Hope.
Yeah, it's really a tough situation because, I mean, of all decks that can do it, Sabine may be able to get by okay with either very few resources or very few cards in hand, because as long as you have a weapon in play and a weapon in your discard pile, you really got a high chance of cycling that. So this was interesting. Tell me, and I think Dominic must have just read your mind here, but how did you decide which 2 dice that you wanted to remove in this situation?
Anytime that you're using easy pickings, you're trying to take 2 like dice, and I chose those 2 because if I had taken the resource on the Maul Saber, he would have been able to get more utility out of it by bringing it out a second time. And so I just wanted to go ahead and get that Boba Fett die out of there, just so that he couldn't re-roll it, get a special, and then get double damage off of that Saber die.
Yeah, good reasoning. Unfortunately for you, Dominic rolled a focus and a +4 damage, so...
Yeah, definitely I was not having the problem that my dad was having this game.
Yeah, I can see that if you remove, especially against Maul Saber, if you remove as many of the dice that have base damage sides as possible, then you really lock out the effectiveness of the die, whereas, if you remove the Maul Saber die, they just pop it right back in. Now, it does, it's going to come out twice anyway, or that's the hope, so, whether you...
Look at that trash roll, would you?
Yeah, what a tough roll. And my favorite part about this is you're forced to discard to reroll, and I think you almost get the exact same terrible reroll.
That's very true.
So this is interesting. Dominic, you chose not to overkill the Sabine to trigger that second chance. Did you have any specific reason there, or did you just want to try to have as much damage on the table as possible, and you didn't want to overuse 4 damage?
Yeah, now in this case, I actually remembered to use the power action on Darth Maul's lightsaber. And that's why I went ahead and did it to Ezra, because I didn't have any other dice out there to help out its modified sides. And I was just afraid if I went ahead and just did the 2, that I just wasn't going to get any more use out of that Darth Maul's saber there.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about the in this next round. You didn't even know it, but you had actually shut down one of Sabine's favorite cards to play, and we'll see if once we draw it here. But yeah, by putting all the damage on Ezra, while still not triggering the second chance, you really locked down a key component of a good Sabine play. And right here, it's that Impersonate card. So Demetrius drew the Impersonate, but there's no damage to be able to really move from Sabine over to Ezra because you put so much damage on Ezra. So I don't even know if you were considering Impersonate when you did the damage, or if you just didn't want to waste 4 damage, but it turned out to be a pretty good lockdown play, to be honest.
Hey, I'll take it if it makes me look good, but but no, I wasn't considering that at the time. Mainly, I was just trying to, I didn't want to waste that +4 off Maul Saber there.
Did you think about that, Demetrius, after you drew the Impersonate?
I thought about it when he split the damage.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I mean, for those watching, that really, obviously you want to kill Sabine as soon as possible, but in this situation, he really avoided a negative. Sabine essentially healing 6 from the Impersonate. So I want to pause here and just talk about this. So you drew the Into the Garbage Chute, And I don't know if you felt like, since you were a little bit behind, how come you activated the Ezra instead of looking for a prime opportunity to play the Into the Garbage Chute? What was going through? What were we thinking there?
Into the Garbage Chute, I mean, it is a great card. However, I had 6 damage, so I had 1 health away from losing Ezra anyway. I wanted to try to get it, and as you can see, the board stayed, and with my ability to roll, I was way behind at this point. He rolls in, and I think he gets a 2 and a blank. So I could have, exhausted Ezra, played that, or I guess he got a disrupt. But I had hoped to get as much utility out of his dice as I could before he went down. And even if he had rolled a +2 and I was able to activate Sabine, get something, kill the Fett, then I would be very happy with that. It was a tough call.
Yeah.
But like I said, I knew he was going to come in. He's already got it in his head. He wants to take out Ezra, and so I went ahead and tried to just roll him in to get as much utility, hoping to get that big roll so that I could catch back up in the damage race.
Yeah, no, good point. So in this situation, you rolled out 4 of the best range damage dice in the game, and you ended up with only 4 damage total. Demetrius, you had earned some bad luck here for some reason, I think.
It's just sad. That's it. It's just very sad.
Yeah, maybe you crossed a bot cat or something.
Yeah, and one of the funniest things about this is we had played a few practice games before this, and he absolutely just mopped the floor with me. Like, he took out Boba Fett the very top of turn 2 games in a row. So it was so weird seeing this game, just the difference between, being able to roll really, really well and rolling very, very bad.
For sure. Perfect hidden motive play. Dominic, why don't you just talk a little bit about that card and the utility it provides?
Yeah, so hidden motive, you pick a dice and you say, like, for example, there on Sabine, you say ranged, and they have to re-roll it. If they roll whatever symbol you had chosen, then it gets removed. So obviously you want to say whatever you don't want them to have. So, for Sabine, say ranged. Any kind of big heavy hitter like Darth Maul's saber. If it was used against me, obviously I have a very good chance of rolling that range side or the melee side, and it just being immediately removed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and again, this is, we were discussing this at the end of the match, and Sabine's actually going to have a pretty good rebound round 5, but here we're into round 4, and Sabine, who can one-shot characters in the first round, has just rolled really unfortunately and has ended up with only 7 damage on the table. And it's just interesting that sometimes you can have games like that, and you need to have a deck that's built with the proper pieces to give you a shot late into the game. And I think that the 2-second chances and the running interference, and you're playing everything you can, Demetrius, at this point to try to make that work.
Yeah, I was in survive till Sabine can swing for the fence mode,
which she's definitely capable of doing. And right here, I mean, you're out of options in your hand, and he's got all of his dice remaining, and you've just got to hope that he can't deal you, what is that, 12 damage, which with the cards he has out there, he's very capable of doing. Or the dice, excuse me.
Yeah, and that was another reason why I didn't go ahead and play the Into the Garbage Chute earlier, is I did have that second copy of Second Chance there, and I kind of decided that I would rather keep that resource, try to resolve damage die on my upgrade, and then get that second one out there to still try to stay alive.
well, we're seeing a power action in play right now. We're playing this match in the day that the Worlds prizes were announced, and my favorite prize from Worlds, coming out of Worlds, is those top 8 power action tokens that look like poker chips. Those things are so cool looking. Have you guys had a chance to see this?
I have not yet, but that does sound very cool.
Yeah, they look pretty rad.
Yeah, I saw them, and I agree. I really like those.
So here's Sabine, through the torture of Maul Saber, has still survived with only 6 damage on her now at this point. Dominic drew 2 lightsaber pulls when he's already got 2 weapons on Seventh Sister, so those aren't going to play a huge role here. And then finally, with a weapon out there and some resources, Demetrius gets those coveted hyperspace jumps here.
Yeah, as soon as and that's the other thing that the Outer Rim Battleground does for you, is that drawing that card helps you dig through that deck, and it's very important when you're playing, a power aggro deck, to be able to dig through it and get your defensive cards out there, like the hyperspace jump. Now here you're going to see, I purposely wanted to lock him out from being able to play a card, because I want to be able to roll in, do damage, and jump out of there to trying to put myself in a position that I could have a win solution.
Did you have any, knowing you're playing against yellow-blue villain, did you have any specific cards that you were hoping to avoid in this particular play with the running interference?
Feel Your Anger is devastating against me, but that would have been my one that I would have considered him having. I also, this Entangle is another one, which can just ruin your turn if you're playing a character like Sabine and you get a 3 and a blank. Well, they just took both of your character dice off the field, and you're not doing anything. So those were probably the 2 in a villain deck that would really sack your turn.
Yeah, I agree. So Dominic, did you just know, with 3 resources and not having a single one played against you, that you were about to get jumped here?
I thought it was a very good possibility. And, it's just something that you got to try to absorb as much as you can. Luckily for me here, like you saw, he only rolled 2 damage, where it could have been much, much worse. But, yeah, definitely lucked out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, every time I played it, and I've played extensive games against Sabine, and every time I'm playing against Sabine, and I've got this, sweet turn coming up, and then I just see that they have 3 resources, I'm just like, well, this sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have to watch out for the jump, and you have to watch out for the Never Tell Me the Odds if you think they can get that out.
Yeah, and he had both. He wasn't in a situation, because, the perfect play, in my eyes, is, Sabine rolls, you play Never Tell Me the Odds, lock out running interference so they can't play a card, and then you have all these dice out there on their perfect sides, and he can't do anything about it.
Right.
So you scavenged for the second chance to make him hopefully go through 3 second chances.
That was the plan. I wanted, as you can see here, I still had another second hyperspace jump. I was hoping to go ahead and snipe off Boba Fett before he had a chance to resolve those dice, jump, and then kind of reevaluate where I'm at and what I needed to do to take on the sister.
So we're coming towards the end of this game, but just in general, as you're if you're to speak to people who are wanting to learn how to play Sabine, what kind of just generic advice or thoughts, or what goes through your mind? What are some? We talked about some of the keys of having that 2-cost weapon. and then some great play times for running interference. I mean, is that really just what you want to do? You just want to get those a 2-cost weapon out there and running interference as often as you can at the right times?
I think that is probably one of the better game plans for Sabine. You do need your dice to cooperate, but or to some degree. But in the best situation, you load up Sabine with 1 or 2 upgrades. You can then cycle your upgrades as you need to, and unfortunately in this game we didn't get to really see the full power of Sabine, and some of her tricks using impersonate and in combinations with the jumps and the running interference. But I still think you kind of get a gist of how to play her. You really want to be able to have, and I think you alluded to it earlier with your upgrades. With Sabine, she's one of the rare characters that you don't mind discarding all your upgrades, so that way you've always got a supply of weapons to bring in.
Yeah, agreed.
From the stockpile. Now, if the damage situation were different here, I wouldn't be trying to cycle weapons. I needed to still try to hold on to weapons to hold on to resources to use for the hyperspace jumps and to use for second chances. But which also goes to why this deck runs Maz's Vault. It would have been ideal if I could have gotten it out earlier, and I believe I had to discard those to try to get some damage because I was so far behind at that point.
Yeah. For our viewers, he did not reference it or point to it in the discard pile, but at this time you can tell based on the fact that he's going to discard to reroll that he had ambush, so he had actually overridden the DL44 for another copy of DL44. And just like most people do, they just show, hey, I'm overriding this, and I'm not going to worry about pulling the one out of the graveyard and putting the other one from the discard pile. So it actually turned out to hurt him because he had used his override for the turn and didn't have the resources for the second chance, but that was what had happened. So you saw him activate Sabine and then discard to reroll. It's because he had that ambush action from the override.
Yeah, Dominic and I are able to see and hear each other, and as soon as I did the override, I actually told him I just made a mistake. So he knew what my game plan was, and I just, in my mind, it's just a mental error, and it happens. I don't know if it would have changed the outcome, but at least it would have given me a quote.
Give me a chance, yeah. So final thoughts here. We're doing a heroic discard to reroll just to say kind of a aha, I rolled lethal maybe, but
yeah.
So Dominic, tell me what you like about the Boba 7th deck, and what some of your final thoughts are on here.
Yeah, so with the Boba 7th deck, I think it is very, very good. My bad, I accidentally forgot to press the push to talk button. Terribly sorry. But what I was saying is I think it's very good at getting out a lot of damage very quick, especially once you get the Darth Maul's saber down and get like more and more upgrades going. And one thing that you didn't really get to see too much in this game was Boba Fett's special. And whenever accompanied by Darth Maul's saber, just one of his specials could very easily be 4 damage. Or, against a Sabine that has those big power dice, like those 3 sides, it could be used against her very easily like that, and the DL44. But I just didn't roll him, and, he was the first one to go down here.
Yeah, I think the one time you rolled the special, he loth-catted it straight out of there. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the reason why this deck plays Boba 7th instead of Maul 7th is, first off, Yellow's got some amazing utility cards, but that Boba special has a chance to smack him for, 8 damage if the Maul Saber's showing, so that's pretty sweet. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate that. Demetrius, any final thoughts? I mean, we just spent some time having you recap in the first place, but what are, kind of a final parting thought or concluding thought on Sabine Ezra?
Well, now, as far as for Sabine Ezra, I believe it's a very strong deck, and it's hard to beat when she's rolling good. But as you can see, it's an uphill battle when you're not. As far as the Boba eSeventh deck, it is a very powerful deck, and that was another reason why I chose the Sabine Ezra one to show some ways of getting around that special, but she didn't roll it because Sabine is particularly at risk of re-rolling her dice and getting that 3 disrupt for a resource, and him having that special out there. You've got to really play smart to get around that. We didn't see that here, but that Boba special is wonderful to use against a big dice opponent, or if you, of course, got the Maul Saber out there. I mean, it has the potential to kill a character in one turn.
Yeah, perfect. Well, you're going to be seeing a lot of the three of us together. We're going to be running this Dissect the Deck series. So I'm Seth Taylor, and with me today was Dominic and Demetrius, and we're very grateful to be here. And Dominic and Demetrius, great to have you on.
Thank you very much. I definitely look forward to recording more episodes and hearing feedback from everyone.
Thank you, and it is great to join this site. The Cube guys are some of the best out there. I know if many of our viewers have made it to regionals or to Nova, they've already met some of the crew, and they're the very reason why we're here now, is that they made us feel like part of the family before we were.
Perfect. Visit us up on thechancecube.com, and we do have a Patreon going on, and we're looking forward to some big things this year at Worlds and Chance Cube Open and Nova. And until next time, thank you.